Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's webinar organized by the papers and sponsored by Worldline, where we will be talking about building your Wero strategy and share some real-world perspectives from 3 European banks. Before I introduce our amazing panel, I will share some practicalities with the audience today. The discussion that we've prepared for you will take approximately 45 minutes, and we have 10 minutes of Q&A at the end of the webinar. So we all invite you to ask your questions, and in doing so, please, on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see a chat panel that includes a chat room and a Q&A widget. You can use that to ask your questions, and we will discuss them and answer them as best as we can at the end of the webinar. Also, we've got a very international crowd today, and you can use subtitles. We've got them available for you. You can activate them by clicking the CC icon that is located on the top right-hand side of the webinar room to the left of the chat tab. There are multiple languages there. I'm sure you will find something that is working for you. And last but not least, we've got a handout prepared for you by Worldline, and you can, of course, use that and download it for your convenience. Okay. We are at a pivotal moment for the European payment landscape. EPI and Wero are not just another payment method. They are a strategic response to the question of who controls the Europe's payments infrastructure. And today, we will speak with top experts from 3 core markets about where we stand and, more importantly, what you need to do next. So please let me introduce our panel, starting with Emmanuelle Francois. She's the global head of Accepta at BNP Paribas. Corinna Metternich, head of Business Product Management Payment Methods Europe at Deutsche Bank. Sander Lietoy, product lead for online payments at ABN AMRO. And last but not least, Antonio Soares, head of business development, financial services at Worldline. My name is Esther Groen. I will be your moderator for today. In my professional life, I'm a payment consultant and independent supervisory board member for several fintechs, amongst others at Currents, overseeing the migration of Ideal to Wero. Good. Before we kick off the discussion, we've asked our audience, you, where you stand on Wero, and based on your answers, we can see that approximately 30 to 40% is already actively involved in either launching or has already launched Wero, but we also have 60% who are still undecided or in evaluation. So this is a very relevant topic. Antonio, I would like to start the discussion with you. Can you please, in short, explain a little bit what Wero and EPI is all about? But more importantly, Worldline supports EPI both from an issuing and an acquiring side and sees a critical window for banks right now. In your view, is first mover advantage with Wero a crucial element? And what does the current roadmap show us?
Thank you, Esther. So I will start by describing a little bit what Wero is, just to set the scene, especially for the undecided amongst the audience that probably know less about it. And then I will answer your question more specifically. But first of all, thank you for being here, Corinna, Emmanuelle, Sander. Thank you also, Esther, for organizing this. It's a pleasure to be here with you. So starting with what is Wero, and maybe very quickly going through it. So Wero is a digital payment wallet. So it's digital first. There's no physical. It's all on the mobile. It's digital native. And it's a payment wallet which allows payments across, I think the main differentiator, if you look at other wallets already in place in Europe, it's a pan-European scheme, and it's account to account. So it uses and leverages an already existing infrastructure in Europe, SEPA Inst for settlement. It's an infrastructure that took a lot of time to build, of course. There was a migration for ISO 20022. There was the batch implementation. There was the move to SEPA Inst. So it's fully digital, it's pan-European, and it's a European sovereign payment scheme. And this is the real intention behind this. So there are 6 countries involved, the Benelux, so Belgium, Netherlands, Luxembourg, France, Germany, and Austria. So those are the existing markets where this is being deployed. And there are also plans for interoperability with other payment schemes around Europe. So it's a very fast-paced initiative to go live as quickly as possible. If you think how the actual network effect and how the adoption has been taken, Wero didn't start from scratch. So it started by, let's say, leveraging 3 already existing wallets or payment schemes in the Netherlands with Ideal, Luxembourg and Belgium with Payconic, and Paylib in France. So at the moment, there are more than 50 million users already registered in the platform. So they don't start from scratch. They start from an existing customer base, which is quite important for adoption. And then finally, and just to finalize this quick introduction, the roadmap or the key milestones, let's say, are all around where we are today. So we are at 2026, of course. So if you look back, they started with P2P. They created the network effect. They created some brand awareness on Wero, then moved from the payment or the transfers into the purchases. Obviously, going to and mobile commerce was the natural next move for a digital-first platform. And there you create the habit of paying with Wero, with this new brand. It's an alternative to other digital solutions. It's an alternative to cards. And then, of course, the next step, which is happening this year and next year, is how do we go into the POS? This is essential, of course, to make it a success. QR codes, NFC, all of these options will be on the table. And so the idea is to create a truly sovereign pan-European payment scheme. So finishing with the slides and going into your question, Esther. So why are we in the middle of the right place to join? I think the last slide that I was showing kind of explains why. So there is a fast implementation roadmap. There is an existing infrastructure. So the banks can leverage an infrastructure that they built from a long time. Merchants and acquirers can also leverage this SEPA Inst infrastructure, which is at a European scale. And so for a merchant, to start now means to actually shape the experience, to help shape the experience, to participate from an early stage, to be able to communicate with EPI for any friction that may exist, experiment with the real-time flows, which is something that can be quite new to them. So quite important to go fast because this is happening right now. On the consumer side, this is something the banks can use. For a long time, they've seen neobanks and new entrants in the market using the digital-first approach. Now this is an opportunity. They can embed the payment solution into their mobile application. They don't need to have it's not a one-size-fits-all. So the Wero can be either a standalone app or embedded into the mobile experience of the banks. So this will allow them to define the user experience from a very early perspective. And again, to actually shape the relationship between EPI, them, and the merchants. So to actually influence the ecosystem. So the window is now, it's 26 to 27. After that, of course, they will be joining an ecosystem which is already shaped by others. So that would be my initial comment. And finally, just to finalize, I think it's very important to mention one thing. In all of this, execution and solid execution is absolutely key. So this needs to go well, efficiently, and reliable from day one.
Perfect. Thank you, Antoni. Thank you for setting the scene. The next block will be around challenges and dilemmas. But before I go back to our panel, I first would like to ask this question to the audience. And we've prepared a poll question for you. And the question to you is, what is the single biggest barrier holding your organization back from moving faster on Wero? And we've got 5 answers for you prepared. The first one is internal priorities or competing IT demands. The second is uncertainty about scheme rules and operational requirements. The third one that might be a barrier is unclear business case or return on investment. The fourth one, just waiting to see how other banks move first. And the last one is that you're already moving at full speed. You can take a couple of minutes to answer this poll. We'll get back at the end of this block and discuss the results with the panel. So I would like to move on to Corina. Deutsche Bank went live with Wero in Germany. What is the toughest challenge you are navigating right now, and what does Germany's experience tell us about merchant adoption at scale?
First of all, for DB as an international bank and acquirer, we have a clear focus on local and A2A payments. So it was never ever a decision: do we just want to launch in Germany, or is it something we definitely will launch in all participating markets? And that was clear from the beginning, that it could not be Germany only. And one of our key challenges in that is then for sure that we wanted to be ready in each market for all the client segments we cover in the moment when these markets are going live. So we had to follow up with all markets and being in the same speed for all markets. And our merchant or our clients are not only merchants. We are heavily also on the fintech business, which is a key business for Deutsche Bank, and so we had to ensure that all kind of merchant and client segments are covered in the moment when we are going live. On the other side, we are an existing ideal acquirer. So besides being ready for the German market, it was a key element for us also to move on with the ideal migration. Germany itself comes with its own challenges. I mean, I don't need to tell you Germany is a very PayPal-heavy country in e-commerce. On the other hand, when you're looking to POS, we have an amazing local debit product which works pretty well since a long time. And we have one key challenge as well, which is that we had a local scheme called PayDirect, which never kicked in as good as all participants wished. And I would really say that that is a key challenge because it is indeed holding some people back to now go full speed into Wero. And we are very often confronted with exactly this discussion. In my opinion, PayDirect and Wero cannot be compared. It's a totally different geopolitical situation we are in today. And also the approach, and Antonio referred to the amount of users which are already registered for Wero. It's a total different approach. What also is one of the key challenges is that you see that a lot of merchants are evaluating a new payment method based on several KPIs. Number of payers, use cases they can cover with this payment method, conversion rates, pricing. This is just mentioned a key. And for sure, with a new payment method, they are not there as a merchant wants. But the actual situation we face geopolitically is indeed helping as well on the user side, because the registering of payers is going very well. And on the other side, you see that merchants are willing to adapt as well. Another key challenge is that you should not underestimate the long time frame you have for new payment method with merchants between the first talk and until you finally see the payment method live in a shop. That can take 1.5 years. It's not uncommon that it takes so long, because merchants have their IT capacities, budgets, other priorities, or just different challenges. And that all might look on the outside that the payment method is not moving as fast as they assume. Indeed, it is. But this is what we are facing in the moment. Wero indeed comes with a lot of with a lot of advantages and benefits. First of all, it's European and it's a scheme-driven UX, and it's way more cost efficient when you compare it with PayPal or cards. So merchants definitely see the benefit. It is, I think, just a matter of time until we all see them going live.
Thank you. There's indeed much more going on behind the scenes than you would see if you only look at the web shots. Emanuele, I would like to go over to you. France has been live with Wero for some time now. What are the biggest challenges you face in bringing merchants and consumers along?
Yes, as you say, Esther, France has been live for several months on Wero P2P first.
Yeah.
And we've got more than 35 million users, so it's quite very effective. And I will come back later in another question on the reason of the success of the Paylibre migration. Yeah. And now we are in France now moving into the Wero e-commerce launch phases, which requires both users for sure, but merchants too. So it is not the same difficulties. So the first thing that when we are talking with merchants and trying to onboard them with a Wero e-commerce payment method is to have a real and effective base of active users. So it is a case in France. So it is a real asset. I think it is very, very indispensable. I think it's very useful to have it. If not, it's not easy to have a real discussion with merchants. After that, when we want to onboard merchants, we really need to have a strong and efficient product. And now we are at the moment that we need to prove that Wero e-commerce is a real efficient and strong product. What does it mean? It is a product with an effective acceptance rate, first, a competitive price, second, a way to integrate it seamlessly into the ecosystem of the merchants with his PSP or on his payment page, and a real and good and very quick payment experience for users. So it is not easy to build all and to have all these achievements. We hope that we will make it in the coming weeks with all the ecosystems, and I think that we need to be very good at each level of the list as I mentioned to be able to put it at the very good payment method. I think so. So I think that we need to be to have a user experience portfolio first, and to be very good at the payments method. And with the combination of the two reasons, it will work. And I think it will work. So.
Yeah, thank you. Makes sense. Sander, in the Netherlands, we've got a whole different ball game going on. ABN AMRO is in the middle of migrating Ideal to Wero. Can you explain what the fundamental difference is between a migration and a launch?
Yeah, so you already mentioned it. So within the Netherlands, we're speaking about a migration, and not about a launch. So we're not building a new habit, but we're trying to move an existing habit to the new payment functionality called Wero. But first, to get a step back, so within the Netherlands, we have Ideal. It's a 20-year-old account-to-account SEPA-based payment functionality. It's very popular, both for consumers as for merchants. It has a 70% market share. and therefore it's also very important to make sure, okay, let's move this volume towards Wero. However, there were two, I wouldn't call them problems, but challenges with Ideal. It was mainly focused on e-commerce and peer-to-peer. So it was hard to grow as a product. And the second one, that it was only Dutch-based. And with Wero, we're really trying to bridge the gap, both on the product perspective as also on the European scale. So yeah, when talking about immigration, I guess also here that two things are important. So the first one is also within payments, always the chicken egg problem. Within the Netherlands, we do have to look at the three biggest banks. They have a market share of 80%. So therefore, we decided to be the egg or the chicken, at least making sure that at least from an issuing side that we're ready. Yeah, and then looking at immigration, Ideal has 1.6 billion transactions in 2025. So to move that with a minimum leakage means also careful planning. So we decided to do that in 3 phases. The first phase is about branding, making sure that people now using Ideal, that feeling that is migrating towards Wero, because Wero will be as good as Ideal. So therefore, beginning this year, we started with co-branding, just simple. We asked the merchants and P2P providers, okay, let's replace the old Ideal logo with this new logo where both logos are visible. Since April, we'll started with the second phase, the technical migration. It means that from consumer perspective, they still pay with Ideal. Merchants they still receive an Ideal payment. However, on the backend side, or at least under the hood, it's all the transactions will be processed by AP and not by the Ideal platform anymore. And I think with the second phase, we're really trying to prove to the market, okay, it will be as good again as Ideal has. So Wero is up for the task. Wero is up for the task, looking at conversion rates, looking at reliability, etc. So at the end of the technical migration, we expect that the volumes of around 50 to 60% of the Ideal volumes will be already be processed on the Wero platform. Yeah, and then the third phase is the magic. People really need to move to Wero, meaning that merchants need to sign a contract, and of course consumers needs to use it, so they need to be recognizable. And therefore, it really means that this phase, the technical migration, is really important to make sure that we're getting there. And over all these phases, we have peer-to-peer, we have e-commerce, and again, peer-to-peer is like an ideal starting point to start, both on the branding, technical migration. It's relatively simple because it is within the banks, so we have everything in control, and therefore an important proof point also to the consumers. This is Wero, and it works. So this is the migration. Of course, after the migration, we will continue. As mentioned, we also believe that Wero as a product is able to grow better than with Ideal. So we're starting with new functionalities like chargebacks, but also with new transaction types, subscriptions, one-click payments, and also in the POS side, as Antonio mentioned. So yeah, it's an ongoing journey, both from consumers, merchants, and the whole ecosystem.
Yeah, thank you, Sander. That's a very clear story. Emanuele, over to you, because BNP Paribas has already been through the migration from Paylib to Wero in France. What can other countries learn from the French experience?
Yes, I think that we was on the same situation as Sanders has mentioned, but on users' side, it was a quicker and a more simple migration. What does it mean? It means that we have got in France a unique experience, a unique solution, which is Paylib, and we have decided to migrate on the same time for every bank, at the same time, all the users for Paylib to Wero P2P. It happened at the end of last year, and it was a real success. And now, as I mentioned, we have more than 35 million users, active users in France. So it is very, very efficient. I will try to explain and to give you what I think are the reasons, maybe not the reason, but the main reasons of this success. First, it was a very simple migration. It means that it was a full reuse of the Paylib customer base. And this migration was based on an opt-in approach. So for the users, it was very simple to say, I use Paylib before, and now it is Wero. It is the same. I do just have to click on my website page and to say I accept to use now Wero, and so be simple to move from payment method to another way. I think it is most complicated, as Sanders has mentioned, for on merchant side, but on user side it is very important to be simple. The second reason, it was a simultaneous launch for all the banks. So we've got a massive migrations, effective and very good prepared, without any technical issues or so that. So it works, and it happened for all the banks in the same time. Third things, it was a very important communications campaign that Wero and all the banks have made in France, and everybody seen the yellow campaign, as you can see, in everywhere in France last year, and it was very effective. And now Wero is a well-known brand, so I think it is necessary to take time with these phases. And the fourth step, I think, is that for sure we need to have a very effective and very good payment experience for users. If not, they try to use it and they don't use it anymore. So with all those four reasons, and that's what happened in France, we really managed to keep and to keep the user experience basis from Credit and to make it growth. And now what you see that it's growing every month, and users are doing more payments than they were before with Credit. So it is good, but not easy. Not easy.
No, it's not easy. And I also see some similarities with the Netherlands, where particularly on a consumer, the communication to the market and the consumers has already led to a pretty high brand awareness already on Wero in such short term.
Yeah. So, and now in France, Wero is now a word that people use to say, I will pay you. They don't say, I will send you some money. They will, I make you a Wero. I will pay you. Well, so it's really effective.
Absolutely. That sounds, that's very, that's a very positive story. Thank you, Emmanuel. I think it's good to go back to the poll question. Let me check the results. Yes, there they are. Thank you for filling this out. So what we see here, it's quite balanced. So it's good to see that the audience is not waiting for other banks to move. So we've got an active audience, but there's the majority is already moving. That's even better. But if you look at the other three, they're quite equally weighted. But the first one is an unclear business case and return on investment. Maybe, Emanuela, would that be one that you could try to answer? How to deal with such a barrier? Because I think it aligns a little bit with what you've been telling, right?
Yes, I think it's not only to launch a new payment method. It is a real choice that banks and many banks have made just to build a new European payment method, and we all need to make it a success. And to do that, for sure, there's a lot of questions that we need to tackle. There's a lot of experiences that we need to improve, but we need to take part of this. And it is not just a political discussions or political words. When we are talking with merchants, they are fully aware of that. They are trying to help us. They understand that we need to have our own payment method in Europe. And for sure, they have a lot of requirements, of technical requirements, pricing, competition, and so on. But they take part of this trend. I think it's not only a question of investment and return of investment, but it is a question of sovereignty. And it's never easy to try to find some numbers and to be able to combine sovereignty and strategy and return of equity. So I hope that it will be a success for in all the countries and for all the users and many banks that will join the movement.
Yeah, thank you. And maybe Sander, another one that follows quite soon is the internal priorities or competing with IT demands. What would you at least advise these banks when that's the biggest barrier?
Right, so it takes time. It definitely takes time to build internally, to test together with the ecosystem, hence also the several phases I discussed, and then the actual migration. And we're not even there at the actual migration yet. Hopefully, we're starting end of this year. So although the Wero setup is similar to cards, you could say it is built on a different infrastructure. It's built on a European SEPA instant infrastructure. Also, the payment is different, or at least when comparing to a deal, it consists of 3 phases. You have the consent. Do you want to pay, or do you want to pay in several phases? Then the authorization. Do you have the money in place? Then, of course, the capture request from the acquirer to the issuer. Get me the money. So it is a bit more complex, I would say. The full payment orchestration. Also, the new functionalities, looking at chargebacks is different, at least for the Netherlands, where you now really can make a difference by, okay, how are your chargebacks processes integrated into your system? Both from an issuing side, we're discussing, okay, how easily seamless should we make this? As also from acquiring side, that you should really look at your merchants or your other parties involved. Okay, what is the risk of being chargebacks over here? And also in the future, more payment functionalities will come there, and it will be a bit more complex, at least within the Netherlands, and looking at Ideal. Also for the banks, so we decided to implement this on our in our front end side, both on the in the app as also for internet banking. And I think high level, with all the preparation and the highest priority we have there within ABN AMRO, because we really want to make Wero a European success. It took us around 12 to 15 months to build, and now we need to start the whole migration. So please start as soon as possible, and please be aware that it takes time to build.
Yeah. And Corina, maybe also on the last one, because that still has 18% a certain uncertainty around scheme rules. What would be your advice?
I can make that very easy. I think the main topics are here lying behind us. The beginning of setting up a new scheme and the discussions on the scheme rules in the beginning had been really, let me call it nightmare, because you have to bring so many markets and so many opinions together. And it was sometimes really hard and challenging discussions. And on the other hand, we already had to start implementation. To not lose the time frames. But the major set of rules is there, and what follows as soon as the markets are live is just business as usual. In the card environment, it's also very common that you get regular updates, and you just get mandates what you need to do. And I would see it in the other way. With Wero, you have the chance to move or to adapt and to move the scheme into a direction where you think it makes sense that the scheme rules look like, while with a traditional card scheme, you just take what you get.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. And maybe I want to stick with you, Corina, because let's move over to some of our best practices and experiences. Being an early mover, Deutsche Bank, for Wero in Germany, looking back, what would be things that you would differently, and what's the one thing that you're most proud of?
I need to commit that I don't have so many things in mind which we would do, especially from a Deutsche perspective, differently. Okay. First of all, I think especially the scheme rule thing is something which I would tackle today a bit different, especially when it comes to the technical integration. We very often waited until, or at least tried to have 90% security on how the rules would definitely look like, and didn't move. forward with technical integration. Today, I would do it different because our assumptions we've been proven very often right, and I would work a bit more with assumptions today to get more speed because we've not been wrong on the scheme rules that often. Perhaps just 1-2 minor things where it would have been different, but the main direction was always relatively clear. And that I would really would do different because it would give us a lot of speed back. And second one, it is something more for the community than less something for Deutsche Bank. I would say we should have talked in several working groups and smaller ones more often at the beginning to really get our heads around bringing together these markets and not do it in really big groups. It was always happening, in real big groups. But that are the two learnings. I would say for how many banks and how many participants we had to bring here together, and then seeing the speed, it pretty worked very well.
And what are you very proud of?
Being so early. I mean, you're not introducing a local scheme that often in your lifetime. Also not when you're working in payment. Yeah, we all introduced several things in the past, but doing this on a European level, I think you might do once, perhaps a second time, but hopefully not. I hope this is once and for all.
Yeah, thank you. Sander, ABN AMRO has lived through the ideal journey from launch to market dominance. What did that teach you about merchant and consumer adoption, and how does that shape how you are currently approaching Wero?
Yeah, so I think we already mentioned it several times. So the European market is highly fragmented with this kind of solutioning, and also with Ideal. We as the Netherlands, we have our own taste. I think with Wero, we're really trying to bridge the gap. So with Emmanuel bringing Paylib, with us bringing Ideal, really trying to create this whole European market. And I think that's also a storyline both for our consumers and for the merchants and other parties. Okay, help us in making sure that this Wero will be that European success. When looking at the deal, so the learnings we have, it was that successful because it was really simple. It was trusted, it was reliable, it was a straightforward payment. It has its disadvantages because of that, but it was also because it was that simple, so successful. And of course, it took us years to build this together with the merchants in the ecosystem and social parties, making sure that we had the best fit. So now going towards Wero, I think from a consumer level, is not really sexy, but at least the last 2 years, we're really trying from a consumer level that it works as good Wero as Ideal. So both in the customer journey, as reliability, as the branding, just making sure that we're making an European copy of Ideal into Wero. And I think we're getting there. So that's also definitely, we're definitely in the right direction. So in a balanced perspective, then when we focus too much on the consumer level, you always have also from the merchant perspective that, unfortunately, there's a bit more complexity over there. Hence also, of course, this webinar today. And also there were in discussions. So also with Ideal, we didn't have chargebacks. With Wero, we're going to have chargebacks. We also hear the discussions out there in the market that it feels like, okay, we're going to migrate and also chargeback. Isn't it too much? So we are in discussion, we as ABN AMRO, but also the AP and the other banks. Okay, how can we make sure that again that we find each other in order to get this effective migration? But yeah, the struggles are real. We hear them, and we need to make sure that we find a solution over there. But also again, from a product perspective, in the long run, with Ideal, it was straightforward payments. But with Wero, we're going to introduce subscriptions. We're going to introduce one-click payments. So there's definitely a lot of value also from a product perspective in migration to Wero.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think that's it.
Yeah. And I think that very much is stepping into consumer needs as well. Antonio, Worldline works with banks across multiple markets. What is the single best practice you would give every bank, large or small, for a successful Wero implementation?
Right, I would probably provide three. So first is to treat this as a consumer first adoption journey. So we've already heard from Emmanuel and Sander, this adoption obviously occurred with the previous wallets. So the experience is there, but in Germany, Corina knows very well that this is a completely new challenge. So I would say break it in three aspects. So understand why a consumer would adopt it, understand why a merchant would adopt it. And I think we're all thinking about the same. What about the cost? What about the price of this? So these are very important elements, I would say the key, but there's other things. This is a digital native solution. So there's more things we can do with the merchants as well. New use cases, new segments in the mobility area, for example, this opens up quite a lot of new options there. So understanding why would one of the stakeholders adopt it, anticipate any friction points that you will find, because there will be friction points, especially in the beginning, of course. So it's better to actually try to anticipate them. None of this is rocket science. Sander was talking about consent, authorization, capture, settlement. These are the key elements. These have been in the industry for a while. So get the infrastructure right and anticipate so that things go well from the beginning. And then communicate. Key, Emmanuel mentioned the fact that Wero is not a verb in France. This is, I think, what we all want to achieve. Wero me some 10 euros and things like that. And then another angle, which I think is very important, is to really focus on the use cases. So don't try to just implement a scheme by the rule book, but also think exactly why would my consumer use P2P? Why would my merchant actually add this logo for e-commerce? So think of use case by use case, because you will find that there's going to be a lot of new options here. It's cross-border for the first time by design. So for cross-border businesses, this is perfect. You will have the option at the POS to pay with a QR code, but also to reutilize the EMV infrastructure already there. So think of use cases. Where can I grow fast using the use cases? And then finally, I think our advice, of course, is perhaps go fast, use existing providers like Worldline, for example, that can provide the technical infrastructure for the payment. Focus on the user experience. Sander was talking about implementing the whole infrastructure on the digital platform so that they can control the user experience. And we believe this is the right thing to do for banks, so that they can actually own and control the user experience on their side.
Super, thank you. Before we move over to the Q&A, and I would ask our panel to check some of the questions that we already received. I would like to elevate the conversation a little bit from product adoption to a strategic imperative. Corina, Deutsche Bank operates at scale across Europe, both as an issuer and an acquirer, from where you sit. And we've already addressed it shortly in the conversation by Emanuele. What is actually at stake if Europe does not build its own payment sovereignty? And why does that question matter right now more than ever?
I mean, we can't ignore that a big share of the European payments, especially when it comes to retail and e-commerce, are routed through non-European networks. Not in all countries. Some countries are different than others, but overall it means pricing, data, and ultimate control are outside Europe. And I'm not describing a risk, I'm just describing the current reality. And the actual geopolitical discussions, and I said it earlier, we can't ignore that any longer. Yeah, we saw in several markets what happens if sanctions or whatever kicks in. Or if they just change a term or whatever, we need to have a reliable and a clear answer on that as Europeans. But let's have a small focus on the reality. We see a lot of countries where it is already working pretty good. We have Ideal in the Netherlands. We spoke a lot about that. We see Bizum in Spain, which is very comparable to what and how Wero is going into the market, because Bizum also started with P2P and is moving to e-commerce and will launch POS. We have MBWay in Portugal, and we also can speak about Card Bancaire or Girocard, all local payment schemes which are working brilliantly. And they are not roadblockers on the way to European sovereignty. They're just proof. And now the only question is, how do we connect them? Does it need to be all migrate into Wero? I don't think so. It could be a really good step to go into interoperability. We see, especially in Southern Europe, how great the adoption rate is. They have the payment methods so integrated in their daily life that they don't think. I can't assume. When I speak with my Portuguese colleagues, they can't just think about how not to live with Multibanco and MBWay. But that building trust in a payment method and in a brand takes time. And while we are doing this with Wero, the interoperability model, which EP and also the European PR is working on, is a model which respects the local trust, the local way of paying today, but moves into a European sovereignty. Deutsche Bank is indeed an acquirer of a lot of these payment methods already, and we are very, very much committed into helping our clients, but also the whole market into this shift, and to make it as easy as possible. Yeah, that's my take on it.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, that means that we've got some time to at least I'd like to park the discussion for now and go to the Q&A. We've received quite a lot of questions. Thank you to the audience for this. Let me see which one. Let's start with a couple of practical questions. The first one is that the slide is showing the 2027 plan forward about POS and electronic cash register. Does that mean a main focus on face-to-face in-store situations? Who wants to take that one? Antonio, maybe you?
Sure. I wouldn't say it's the main focus. I would say it's a strategic focus for sure, because this is where most of the volumes are. So it's quite important. And I think it's also important to realize that consumers today are using a very seamless NFC experience that we all know about, which is working very well. So from a consumer, that is the golden standard, right? So Wero must provide a very similar experience there. So the idea is that the option for NFC and a very similar user experience, tap and pay, tap and go, will be there. It's also very critical. I think EPI has this very top of mind, that it's important to use the existing installed infrastructure. So POS, EMV kernels, all of those standards must be used to avoid a massive migration across the POS estate. So I think this is the plan. The plan is to put this NFC technology on the POSs. But alongside, you've got also the QR code that can enable, like I said, sometimes it's easier to use the QR code if you want to embed it in your payment experience. So this is also an option. So I think that's my view. I don't know if my colleagues also have their own experiences in this front.
No, I fully agree with you, Antonio. It's key in the strategy of Wero to be present on the face-to-face payments, and for sure that when we are talking about the place that the international card scheme are playing, we need to include it in the XPay payments and the role and the place they are taking in the ecosystem. So it is another things that we need to tackle, and we hope we will be able to tackle with Wero. And as you say, the key success of the face-to-face payment will come if we are able to include it inside the POS as they are as of today. We don't need to, if we need to replace and to put some new POS, it will be impossible to achieve. So another key milestone to jump into.
Yeah, that makes sense. On another question, interesting one, I think links to what you just told Corina. Is there potential for interoperability between EPI and the plans some UK banks have for setting up their own sovereign payment rails?
I would never say no. As far as I know, it's not under discussion, but perhaps, I mean, UK didn't decide on a local payment method by now, how they do it. So there is still room to first discuss if it needs to be interoperability, or it could be a joint approach as well. I don't know if there is discussion, but could be a discussion point. And I'm pretty sure if there is a local payment method existing, why should nobody talk about interoperability? I mean, EP is having a clear focus on this. This is very clear commitment also from the shareholders that we are going into this direction. So nobody has planned to carve out the UK market. It's a European market, a very important one.
Yeah, agree. Anybody else who wants to respond to this?
I would maybe also complement that when we're talking about interoperability, there are kind of two elements. One is interoperability amongst European or Euro countries, which is easy because you have a common currency and you can use SEPA-Inst to do it. So that I would say step number one. And so I think there's a lot of interoperability discussions, as Corina mentioned, with some of the other very successful wallets, because this is the easiest way to have a almost 80-90% coverage of the continent. So this is one. The other thing is interoperability between different currencies, so cross-border interoperability with different currencies within the SEPA area. And then the other one, which I think eventually we will need to address, is how we will get Wero adoption worldwide outside SEPA, because this is also important. And this is what the international card schemes are offering. I would say this is, and the UK is part of that, of course, as part of that conversation.
Thank you. Maybe going to a new question. I see a lot of questions around pricing, and particularly related to Ideal and Wero, Sander. Can you share a little bit about where we stand on that in the Netherlands? Here, for instance, is mentioned after 2 years, a percentage of the amount is reportedly calculated, but it's now fixed for the next 2 years. What can you share, or can you tell something about this?
Yeah, so of course I cannot look into the future, but as looking at Ideal, so AP stated together with the banks that we are making the pricing the same to the end of 2028. Yeah. However, the pricing structure is different. So for pricing, it's a simple fee. For them, with Wero, we're going to an ad valorem based on caps. So we are trying to copy Ideal over there by putting the right caps on pricing amount. And of course, in 2028, I guess the price will increase as the world becomes more expensive. But keep in mind, so we as banks and AP, we really want to make Wero a European success. And we are aware of our competitors, both on the American part as also with the PC2 related, the pay-by-bank competitors. So we're really not incentivized to increase the price significantly after that. Yeah, I think that's it. And of course, we cannot look into the future, but I hope that understanding where we come from and why we want to make it a success. I don't expect that we will increase that price, that people will drop off, because we need people on board, including their volume.
Yeah, great, thanks. Also see a couple of questions on, sorry, did anybody want to respond? No, okay. Also see a couple of questions on the digital euro, maybe kind of to capture it all together. What's the status and how does it relate to Wero? Antonio, what can you maybe tell about that?
So I would say there are similarities, but they are completely different things. So one is centrally moved the replacement of cash effectively. I don't think we ever compared cash with Visa or MasterCard or electronic payments. So I think it's the same thing. They will have different spaces. I think Wero as a commercial initiative, European-wide, has the potential and has the ambition to have a lot of use cases which will not be available on digital euro. So it will be different initiatives, different types of cash. Of course, there is an overlap. I think everybody understands they're both digital, they're both on your mobile phone. What I would, and this is just my personal opinion, I think it's more likely that Wero includes digital euro as an option, for example, as one of the options to pay. This is one of the things that can happen. But I just think consumers will see it differently, because Wero will be branded. It will be much more closer from a commercial activity with the merchants than the digital euro, which will be seen as an institutional way of payment. And it's a backup. I mean, it's really a backup solution to replace cash in the long run. That's I think the way we should look at it.
Yeah, great. I'm conscious of time, and I still want to ask our panel one or two short questions. But maybe one final question from the audience, which is on. Wait, let me scroll back. Which is on Appy still using AWS. Is there a plan to move away from that and to a European provider, which is a very topical question, I think. And we expected this one also. So who wants to take that one?
Yeah, it's an ongoing discussion. I think it's a very logical question. Okay, you want to be European, but your whole infrastructure is American-based. So make sure that you're really independent. So there's an ongoing discussion also within the AP platform. I think everyone is aware there are alternatives available. However, they're always not as good, and you want to be a reliable payment solutioning. And so it's an analysis being done currently, and I believe every 6 months we're doing this checkup. So in the medium long term, I definitely expect that the setup will be totally European. However, let's see how the market evolves.
Yeah, good point. Okay, thank you, audience, for your questions. Let's move over to our closing question. We've got only a couple minutes left. So what I would like to ask the panel is to basically, what's your key takeaway that you would give to our audience to act on today when it comes to Wero? Emanuela, can I start with you?
I think that step by step is the key word to be ambitious and proceed step by step. And I think P2P first, e-commerce second, POS third could be a good way to achieve this success. So and be ambitious and European.
Thank you, Antonio. What's your takeaway?
I would say the infrastructure is ready. There is SEPA Inst deployed across the continent. The large banks, and we see the colleagues here on this panel, are supporting it. So the scale will come up. So I would just say join it, go fast. and control your users and your user experience by adding this as a digital project to retain and to attract your consumers.
Thank you, Sander. Oh, you're mute. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so in short, I think with Ideal, we've proven that we can build a European payment solutioning. I think with Wero, we're having the answer to do this also on European scale and also evolve over time as a product. Within the Netherlands, we're before migration. And of course, we're hearing loud and clear also the feedback that we're getting, okay, how to do this as effective and as possible, for instance, regarding the chargeback method. So I just would say we're hearing everyone, we're coming to a solution over there. And from an IT perspective, like I mentioned, it is a bit different. So start in time, prepare, and let's make this a success altogether.
Yeah. And last but not least, Corina.
Yeah, Germany has built the blueprint on Wero for now. And I mean, the Wero community is a very open one. We are all here to help. We want to make it big. So you don't need to reinvent everything and start from the scratch. Reach out to Wero, reach out to the participating banks. We are all here to help you to move a bit faster than we did.
Thank you. Okay, that leaves me for my closing comments to you, our audience. We've heard it directly from the people building this, from Germany, France, and the Netherlands, and from Worldline. The challenges are real, but every challenge has a solution. And they are available now. European payment sovereignty is not a distant ambition. It is real. It is being built market by market, bank by bank, payfac by payfac, and merchant by merchant. Wero is the vehicle, EPI is the framework, and the window to be a first mover is still open, but not indefinitely. Thank you to our outstanding panel. Thank you so much for your insights and your time. Thank you, Worldline, for facilitating and making this conversation possible. And thank you to our audience for joining us today and for your questions. We hope to see you on the inside of this movement. Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.